A good property can still be a terrible deal. And that's exactly where most people get this wrong. They walked into something that looks right, feels right, checks a few surface level boxes, and they stopped asking questions. That's the moment the deal starts to break. Not because the property is bad, but because the decision behind it is weak. What's changed in this market? You can't rely on the market to fix your mistakes anymore. For a long time, people could overpay, assume demand, be loose on numbers, and still come out okay because everything was moving up. That environment covered a lot of bad decisions. That environment is gone. Now the deal has to stand on its own. And frankly, most of them don't. The biggest mistake I see right now is people trying to make a deal work instead of asking if it actually works. Those are completely different mindsets. One is forcing something into place. The other is recognizing when something already makes sense without effort. Because a real deal doesn't need to be forced. It holds up under pressure. When I look at something, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm trying to break it. What happens if demand softens? What if the expenses come in higher than what you expected? What if it takes longer to exit? That's important. What if you want to sell? What happens if you can't? If the deal falls apart under those questions, it wasn't strong to begin with. And this is where people get caught. They focus on what could go right. They don't spend enough time on what could go wrong. But the downside is what actually cost you money. You can take a completely decent property and turn it into a bad deal just by how you structure it. Too aggressive on price? Too optimistic on income? I see that a lot of really bad projections out there. No real margin, no clear exit. Now you're not investing, you're hoping. And hope is not a strategy. The other piece people miss is demand. Real demand, not assumed. Not, this area is good, so it should work. That's lazy thinking. Demand has changed, and it's changed a lot. People are not just looking to book a place to sleep anymore. They're booking an experience. They want proximity to something, outdoor access, outdoor activities, walkability, views, attraction, something that makes the stay feel intentional. If your property doesn't give them a reason to choose it, they'll find one that does. And that's where a lot of deals quietly fall apart. Because on paper, everything looks fine. But in the real world, the property doesn't compete. And right now, competition matters more than ever. You're also seeing a shift towards repeat demand, a stronger shift than you have in the past. Not just people coming to the area, but people coming back. That matters more than most people realize because repeat demand stabilizes performance and creates predictability. It reduces volatility. It creates consistency. That doesn't just come from the property. It also comes from the area. One of the biggest indicators I look at is commercial and attraction development. What's being built? What's expanding? Where is the money actually going? Because large-scale development doesn't happen randomly. It follows demand, and more importantly, it reinforces demand. It gives people a reason to come back. And when people come back, that's where long-term performance shows up. So if you're only evaluating the property, you're missing the part of the deal. You have to understand what's happening around it, what's driving people there, and what's going to keep driving people there repeatedly. Because a good property is in a stagnant area is very different from a good property in a growing area. And if you don't understand that difference, you're not evaluating the deal. You're guessing. And that's the theme here. Most people are guessing. They just don't realize it. Because the deal looks right. It feels right. It sounds right. But it doesn't actually hold up. And that's why the best deals right now don't always look impressive. They're not the flashiest. They're not the ones everyone gets excited about, but they perform. And performance is what matters in investment. I've seen properties that look perfect on the surface, and they fall apart when you actually run them correctly. And I've seen the opposite. I've seen deals that don't look like much, but they're structured right, and they outperform everything around them. That's the key difference. That's what separates someone who understands deals from someone who reacts to them. And this is why strong markets can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Because strong markets eliminate bad deals. They hide them. They make the average decisions look smart for a period of time. And then when the market tightens, those decisions get exposed. So if you're looking at short-term rentals, land, development, anything right now, you have to go deeper than just this area is strong. That's not enough anymore. You need to understand why the deal works, who it works for, and what happens if things don't go the way you planned. Because people who win in this market aren't the ones chasing deals. They're the ones walking away from the wrong ones. And that's a completely different mindset than what we saw a few years ago. If you can start thinking that way, you don't need perfect timing. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need a deal that actually looks good on the surface. You just need a deal that actually makes sense. This is scale, and we're just getting started.